Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. And today I want to kind of respond to one of Extra Credit's latest video they did a few days ago, talking about game prices in the AAA industry and how much they should go up, because a lot of people have been arguing lately games should not be $60, they should be $70, they should be $120. And to a certain extent, I'm not going to disagree with them when you count in inflation and when you count in bigger games. However, I am going to state there's way more than that way of looking at things. And the AAA model is probably doomed for failure at the rate it's going. One of the games I have played recently that I thought was freaking hilarious was Megadimensional Neptune VII for Steam, and one of the jokes they kind of made, one of the points they kind of made, is that this whole model that the AAA industry is kind of using now is very self-destructive. It's old, antiquated, kind of senile, and needs to go, and I agree with that. So here's the mistakes I think the people who argue the needs to get more expensive. Here's my points and here's my arguments. One of their biggest arguments is that gamers want bigger games and we want them at 120 or 60 frames per second, 4K, all that jazz. And I'm here to say that's not true at all. I take a look at a lot of YouTubers' top 10 games from last year, and the 4 games that usually pop up in a lot of the lists are Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Oddessey, which I haven't played yet, but I'll get to why I think that's still important, Cuphead, and Doki Doki Literature Club. That's pretty much half their lists with these selection of games. So let's take a look at them and see if they meet that super high graphic power, huge open world that these extra credit folks who work inside the industry say that we want. Well, Doki Doki Literature Club here is a visual novel game, basically. Now, granted, it's a parody and a horror story based off visual novels, but it's nonetheless a visual novel game. Outside of a few more effects that you would see, it's not very graphic intensive at all. And the game was given away for free as well with a, hey, if you like our game, spend $10 on a soundtrack if you want us to make a little money off of this, which I thought was a great way of doing things. The second game oftentimes on the list is Cuphead, which is known for its graphics, but not for being 1080p, 60 frames per second, super, but for being distinct. It looks like a 1930s cartoon. Now, there are some digital trickery in some of the stages, as I pointed out in my review, but for the most part, it looks cel animated. It's only costs $20. It was made by a small handful of people. So, definitely not AAA. Now, let's take a look at the 2 AAA games, and they have graced a lot of gamers, usually in the top 3 spots, Mario Oddessey and Zelda. And let's take a look at those. Yes, those are AAA games. Zelda is definitely an open world game. I'm not going to argue against that Zelda is an open world game. But they were released on the Wii U and they were released on the Switch. Alright, the Wii U is basically just a beefed up Xbox 360, and the Switch runs a little underpowered from the original version of the Xbox One. Again, not using a whole bunch of that super graphic fidelity that the extra credit crowd is saying that we gamers want, and that's what the triple game industry is after. And what the AAA industry is facing on that front is diminishing returns. It's an economic principle. Basically says that, for the first $5 you put into something, you may get 10 back. Next $5 you might get 7 back. Eventually you may be spending a whole bunch of money to get a few cents worth back. And at that time, you might just want to live with the fact that life's not perfect and whatever you're designing. And I think graphics have reached that. In fact, I think they've reached that several years ago. I was playing through Tomb Raider about 3 or 4 months ago, playing through both the Steam version and the definitive version. Definitive version looked a little better, but I enjoyed the Steam version just as much, despite not having quite as good graphics. And I also went through Tomb Raider Underworld, which was kind of the last from the original Tomb Raider series, and that game's almost a decade old. I still enjoyed both equally. There were times where, yes, the Tomb Raider reboot beat it up as far as immersion when it comes to the graphics, but it wouldn't be worth the price that these AAA game developers are saying that I'm going to have to pay. And that's something, like I said, I think the AAA industry, if they really want to survive what's coming with Steam, with indie, they're going to have to sit down and decide, what do gamers actually want? Because what they're telling me want is great for their investors. It's great because they only have to risk making 1 or 2 games a year, and then they can just keep making me buy crap for the game, whether I want to or not, whether it's needed or not, with the loot box systems, and keep making money. But that's not good for them in the long run. So basically, my whole premise is AAA industry is kind of dying, and the whole graphics arguments that a lot of people are using, and huge open world arguments that people are using, isn't true. Okay? These games have their places, but they're not every game, and it's not every gamer. A lot of big indie hits have done the opposite. So whenever I hear that, I'm like, that's so not true. That is so 10 years ago. The game industry is changing, and a lot of these game developers, a lot of these publishers need new business models, or else they're going to fail. This is Tommy the Game Master signing out. I'll see you guys